Welcome back to the YouTube home of Peter Pan lore and Peter Pan facts with me, your Peter Pan hobbyist, enthusiast and journalist. Using my Peter Pan hobbyist, enthusiast and journalist brain and knowledge to bring you fun facts, lore and trivia, talk about the world of the Neverland, the story of Peter Pan, answer your guys' questions, Sergei is still here, and do generally more long-form video content. Well, I unashamedly love this TV show, so we are going to do a mashup today of one of my favourite TV shows and the world of the Neverland, just for a little bit of silly fun to welcome us into 2026, because, oh boy, this year's turning into an interesting one. So while the world is crashing and crumbling around us, let's have some light-hearted fun, shall we? Welcome to The Neverland Meets The Traitors. The concept of the TV show, The Traitors, which I'm going to be basing the concept of this video on today, is this. You start with a group of people. They all arrive at a very fancy castle. They meet Claudia Winkleman, the best host in the entire world, or if you are playing in a different country, another host who is also okay, but not Claudia Winkleman. They will then spend time as a group in this castle, and then they will gather. And on the first night, they will all sit at the round table like King Arthur and his knights, and they will all have blindfolds on where they cannot see a thing. And Claudia will walk around them, or the presenter will walk around them, and three, or more, but usually three, will be chosen as the traitors. The rest of the cast are then the faithfuls. It is the job of the faithfuls to try to work out who their traitors are and get them banished from the castle, because every night the traitors will meet and they will pick a member of the faithfuls to murder. That faithful will be out of the game forever and can do nothing about it. The faithfuls must try to attempt to work out who these traitors are, and every night there is a round table where they will all vote, and the person with the most votes is banished from the castle, and they reveal as they leave whether they were a faithful or a filthy, dirty traitor. Eventually, the numbers get whittled down and down and down. Essentially, you lose 2 people every day, 1 to a murder and 1 to a banishment, and eventually you end up with your final little group of round about 5 or 6 people. There could be traitors still remaining in this group. They could be all faithful. They have no idea at this point, and so trust is difficult to come by. If they have managed to banish traitors, the traitors can of course recruit new members. So you may have banished 1 or 2 traitors, but that does not mean there is only 1 left. There could be back up to 3 or even 4 traitors at this point in the game. By the time we get to the last group of people, what's usually happening is that when people get banished, they no longer reveal whether they are a faithful or a traitor, and it is purely down to gut instinct on who you want to have left with you in the finale. If there are any traitors left at the end, they immediately take the pot and none of the faithfuls get anything, but if all the traitors have been banished and there are only faithfuls left, they split the pot. And something that can happen if there is only traitors left at the end is they can do the Traitors Extra game, where they have to decide whether they are going to split or steal the money amongst themselves. So that is the concept of the game Traitors. You are trying to work out who the traitors are, banish them away, and the faithfuls to try to win. The traitors are trying to murder their way to victory and ultimately take the pot for themselves without revealing who they or each other are. All that in mind, let's talk about then how this might work if it happened on the Neverland. I could have taken this video in 2 different directions, and I'm very tempted to do both. So the thing with the Neverland is, it's not all light-hearted fun and games all the time. People get hurt, people really die, fights are real, things really happen. There is play, there is games, but there is real harm and bloodshed as well. And so there is a big part of me that thinks that depending on who the traitors are, they may actually murder people. This could be a thing that actually happens. But also it could just be done as a silly game that they all play as well. And so I'm going to keep changing my mind on that as we go. But for now, I'm going to say it's just a game. None of the people involved are actually getting murdered. Maybe they can sit up in the trees and they can watch as everyone else continues to play, that kind of thing. So what we are going to do is we're going to talk about different individual characters and how well I think they would do as either a traitor or a faithful, and then I'm going to do a fun game where I pull 3 names out of a little cup that I have put everyone's names into, and I will discuss how I think those 3 might work together as the traitors.
Get iPhone 16e and save £468.
I don't want an iPhone. Such a great theme tune. So we'll start with Peter Pan himself, because why the hell not? And we'll start with him as a traitor. On the positives, I think he would really enjoy being a traitor. It would feel like it's something special and exciting for him to do. He would enjoy the fact that he got to murder people every night, pretend or real, whichever direction we go. It'll be a hugely fun part of the game for him. I do not think that he would enjoy any scheming or planning or manipulation people might try to do, as what happens in the Traitors quite a lot of the time. People try to make a plan. He is more of a act now, don't think about it later kind of person. He's very, pun intended, flighty, and so I don't think he would really go into it with a plan, nor would he want to. He would find that quite boring and almost like you're ruining the game by making a plan. Let's just play kind of thing. If it came down to a split or steal at the end with the other Traitors, again, it depends on who it is, because he can be a very good person and he can be quite selfish. If any of them were adults, or pirates, or Captain Hook, or anything like that, or just someone he didn't trust, he would absolutely steal it. As a traitor, it's very 50-50 depending on who he's with, but ultimately I think he would enjoy it and he could do quite well. He just would not plan. He would have no plans and schemes, none of that, which ultimately might work best for him. Alright, Peter Pan as a faithful then. I think he would also enjoy it. He might be a little bit jealous of the Traitors for a while. He loves games, he loves play. I think he would really enjoy whatever it was he was doing. He could definitely find the fun in it. I think that his biases would show. He would not trust anyone who he already didn't trust. He would bring that into the game 100%. He wouldn't be able to look at it objectively. Although he may try to switch sometimes, because he does like to switch sides if he feels like he's winning too easily. So if they banished a traitor, he might then want to become a traitor because he feels like, oh, well, the faithfuls are doing too well, this is boring, and so swap sides. So that dynamic would be really interesting. It really depends, but ultimately fairly 50-50 on either. All right, let's go to Wendy next. Why not? I think that secretly Wendy would quite like to be a traitor, because she does enjoy games as well, and she really enjoys telling stories, and she is so much the mother, and she loves that so much. She is a very sweet and kind and empathetic kind of person. I think it would be really fun for her to, within the game setting, particularly if they're not really murdering people, if it is the game itself, she would really enjoy being able to get into a brand new role that no one would ever suspect, and I think she could win. Wendy as a traitor could win. Again, it depends on who the other traitors were, because they could chuck her under the bus depending on who they were, but the Lost Boys would probably never want to turn on Wendy. They only turn on her once in the story and they very quickly come back to her side. So I think she'll be very good at strategizing. She knows them all far too well. She can read them all almost like a book. She can get along with almost anyone. She could probably convince Captain Hook to be on her side a little bit as well, maybe. So ultimately, I think she has a very good chance of winning as a traitor. As a faithful, I think her ability to read and understand people would help as well. And again, she's very well trusted and respected by everyone, including Captain Hook and Peter Pan. The people she would probably have the most trouble with would be Tiger Lily and Tinkerbell, because those three sort of sometimes have a stalemate between them. But if they could get past that, but then Wendy does have a little bit of prejudice as well towards Tinkerbell and Tiger Lily because of how they behave towards Peter. So that might end up swaying her and she might vote them out even if she didn't think they were traitors. But ultimately, she is possibly one of the few people there who would be able to be the most objective and look at it as what it was as the game. I think she has the best chance of winning as a traitor, but ultimately she will be a very, very good faithful. I think she could go very far and she could possibly win as a faithful as well. How about Captain Hook then? Or he's another one where it really depends on who he's with, particularly as a traitor. I think that Captain Hook would want to plan and scheme, and depending on who he was with, he could do quite a good job of it. He would have no qualms throwing anyone under the bus whatsoever. His other traitors would have to watch their backs. I do think he would enjoy the role of traitor, though. I think he'd be very, very good. On the flip side, I think he'd be quite a good faithful. I think he would really enjoy the mystery of it. He enjoys classic books and poetry and works of art, so I think he would really enjoy getting into a mystery. Almost looking at good and bad form as well, particularly if they were doing challenges and missions, that kind of thing. So I don't know about his chances of winning. Nowhere near as good as Wendy's, but he does have the opportunity to get quite far, I think. All right, let's talk about Tinkerbell. Tinkerbell would so want to be a traitor. I think she'd be disappointed if she was a faithful, and depending on what mood she was in, she might just stay long enough to keep voting for Wendy, realize no one else was going to vote for Wendy, and then give up, not care, and get herself banished. As a traitor, she would be living her best life. And I think that she would go quite far. And I think that she would steal it at the end unless she was with Peter. I think she would steal it from anyone else. As a faithful, I think she'd get bored. But as a traitor, I think she would be living. How about Smee then, Mr. Smee? Oh, I think he'd be such an adorable traitor, and no one would suspect him at all. He would be a flying under the radar traitor. People would only start looking at him right towards the very end when they start looking around and going, well, who haven't we thought about yet? And even then, I think that he could probably skate his way to the finale. But I do think he would split it if it was just traitors left. As a faithful, equally, I think he could go really far. I think that a traitor would keep him until the end as an ally and someone who they know is not going to get voted out, but then they would throw him under the bus very quickly at the very last minute because they know there's no way anyone else is going to banish him, so we've either got to murder him or all the traitors would team up and banish Smee, because I just don't think people would vote him out. So Smee has a very good chance of winning as well. Currently, Smee and Wendy are the two with the best chances of winning in either role. How about John then? John Darling. As a traitor, I think he would love it. I think he would want to be a traitor completely. He would want to be in that position of power, authority, to have that over other people. I also kind of think that would show. I think John Darling would have a tell, and I think his sister would know immediately. I think Michael would probably cotton on quite quickly, and I think that Captain Hook would be able to tell as well, because Captain Hook can read John quite well, as we see later on in the story. So I think they might clock it and keep him in for a little while, and then vote him out at an opportune moment, especially if one of them was a traitor as well. So if he was a traitor, unfortunately, I don't think he could win it because I think he would have a tell. As a faithful, a bit like Tinkerbell, I think he might get a little bit bored and frustrated, but he would enjoy that game and he would want to solve it. I think he would struggle a little bit with feeling like he wanted to be more clever than everyone else there, and I think he would immediately suspect Peter was a traitor and would never be able to believe him as a faithful, even if he was. So I don't think John has a very good chance of winning as a traitor. Probably a better chance of winning as a faithful, but it would depend on who he was with. So I'm gonna go like 10% chance of winning as a traitor, and maybe a 60-70% chance of winning, more like 60 as a faithful. How about Michael Darling then? Sweet little Michael. Well, much like Smee, I think he could go quite far as a traitor or a faithful because people would just trust him. He's sweet, he's the baby. He could really play up on that if he's clever. And I think when he realised he could play on that, he would really ham it up a bit as well. That might ultimately be his downfall. A bit like when the children are pretending to snore to trick their nursemaid into leaving the nursery, and Michael does it a bit too enthusiastically and nearly gives the game away. I feel like towards the end, he might start getting too excited that he's doing really well as a traitor, and ultimately that might be the thing that gives him away, again, particularly to his sister, possibly to John as well. So ultimately, I think he'd probably get himself voted out as a traitor if those two spotted that. But as a faithful, I think he could go quite far because people would just trust him and it would be really sweet. I think he has a chance of going quite far as a traitor, but I think he has the best chance of winning as a faithful. Let's go for the Lost Boys then. Not as a collective, we're going to go individually. So, Slightly, we'll start with Slightly. I think Slightly would really, really, really want to be a traitor so badly. And I think he would look really disappointed that he wasn't. And I think it would almost give him away as a faithful, which would be great for other faithfuls because they would know who they could trust and keep in. But for the traitors, they would then immediately think, well, we've got to kill this one off because they're just going to keep him all the way to the end. Or they could put that in their back pocket and keep him for a while, gain his trust, feed his ego a little bit, especially if they knew if Wendy was a traitor, she would be able to play Slightly, I think, very, very well. And maybe coast along with him, keep his vote, keep him on side, and then chuck him under the bus later. He'd be too disappointed to be a faithful, I think, but he would try his best, and he would really think that he was getting it. And the Lost Boys have all been learning how to write as well. That's something that would be happening. Someone would have to write Peter's down for him because he cannot read or write or spell. Semantics. He has a fairy. He whispers to the fairy and they write it down for him. Boom, problem solved. As a faithful, Slightly, I think, has less of a chance of winning. I think he would be used by the traitors and then discarded, unfortunately. As a traitor, I almost feel like he would overplay his hand. He would, a bit like Michael, enjoy it so much, you might be able to tell. So just as you could tell that he was disappointed, I feel like you might be able to tell that he was delighted. And I feel like he might be one of the most obvious traitor giveaways ever. Through no fault of his own, bless him, but I think he would give it away a little bit. So ultimately, I think, depending on who the other traitors were, they may well chuck him under the bus to essentially surrender a traitor to the faithful, so they felt like they got one. I'm sorry, Slightly. Alright, let's go on to Tootles, why not? In a similar way to Slightly, I think Tootles may have a bit of a tell. I think his tell would be more likely if he was a traitor, because he would be terrified. And I think he would, as Claudia was walking around the circle, ready to tap them on the shoulder to pick the traitors, and they're all blindfolded, I think he would be actively hoping, please not me, please not me, please not me, please, no, 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 no. And he may even get tapped and go, no, and give himself away before the blindfolds have even come off. So poor, sweet, kind Tootles, I feel like, would immediately be found out as a traitor. The other Lost Boys would immediately vote for him, so I don't think he would last very long at all. I think the other traitors will probably vote for him as well, unless one of the traitors was Wendy, possibly. She might keep him in, that would be very sweet. So he probably has more chance of winning as a faithful. I think that people would not suspect him because, as opposed to Smee and Michael, where they think they're too sweet, I think they would just underestimate him. And Tootles could be clever, and he can be very brave, and he stands up for Wendy. When he has an opinion, he makes it known. And I think that he would really come out of his shell the more people they lost along the way, particularly if a lot of the Lost Boys got lost, I think, and if they got killed off and banished, and he was one of the few left. So ultimately, I do think Tootles could be a winner as a faithful, but it would depend on who else was in the game. But I reckon he could probably make it to that final. And I reckon the most surprised person of all would be Tootles. Nibs is an interesting one. I feel like he would really enjoy being a traitor. You know, he's described as very debonair, so I think he would really enjoy that. He could really come into his own. And so I think he could be a sort of stealth traitor victory, I think. The other traitors would probably trust him, depending on who they were, but particularly if they weren't other Lost Boys. And ultimately, yeah, I think weirdly he could be a bit of a dark horse to win as a traitor. And I do think that he would split it as well. And I think as a faithful, I think he'd enjoy the game. I think he'd really get into the guessing. I think that he could, that debonair part of him could really come out, and he could become quite eloquent, really, and he could speak for himself very well and hold his own. And so actually I think he could be a stealth victory for a faithful as well, as long as there were no traitors in at the end. They might not even realise he's almost still there, just sort of coasting through, and then get bigger and bolder as it goes along. How about Curly then? So Curly... oh, I love Curly. He's a pickle, and I love him so very much. He's so used to being in trouble all the time. I feel like he is described as the one who, every time Peter says, stand forth, who did this thing? You know, what went wrong? Who did it? And he's so used to it being him that he now stands forward, even if it wasn't him. And so he might get banished quite quickly, because people might accuse him of being a traitor, and he'd be so used to just confessing to doing things wrong that he might end up thinking, maybe I am. Did I miss the tap on the shoulder? Have I been murdering people this whole time and just not remembered? Or was it me? And I feel like that startled look to those who didn't know him would seal his fate and make them vote for him. And to those who do know him, they would probably just be confused and going, okay, well, is he or is he not? And the fact that they couldn't quite tell would mean they'd have to take the gamble and vote him out anyway. So unfortunately, I think as a faithful, he will probably get himself voted out. As a traitor, he may suffer a similar fate because especially the Lost Boys, particularly in the first few rounds when they're all there and can all gang up, that's, you know, 5 votes against him. Plus if John and Michael join in too, and Peter, you know, that's a good handful of votes. That's a good chunk of the table. So ultimately, I think he would probably get himself voted off through no real fault of his own, just through constantly being blamed for stuff. But I do think that he would quite actually enjoy being a watcher. So once he's out of the game completely, he can just sit back, eat some berries, eat some sweet treats, hang out with the fairies and whoever else gets banished and murdered, and just watch the chaos unfold. And he'd probably really enjoy that. I can almost see him taking on a commentator role and being like the overall narrator, maybe following Claudia around and helping her with her stuff and things like this. So ultimately, I think he'd almost have more fun watching the game because, sadly for poor Curly, the pickle that he is, he will probably get voted out quite early on, regardless of whether he was a faithful or a traitor. And now we shall do the twins to round off the Lost Boys. So Twin 1 and Twin 2, they are entering the game as separate competitors, so that would be fun. If both or one of them was a traitor, that could be so interesting. Particularly for a character like Peter, who cannot quite comprehend the fact that they are separate and that they have different dreams to each other and they always stay quite close together and dress very similarly and stuff. So I feel like Peter would really struggle with the fact that one of them might be a traitor and one of them wouldn't, particularly if he was a traitor with one of them. He would almost be confused that the other one must be as well. And I think the problem with being twins in a game like this is that people would suspect that, well, one of you must be. A bit like if you come in as part of a couple or a pair or something pre-established, people always make that assumption, particularly early on because they've got nothing to go on. Well, statistically, it might be one of the two of you, so therefore we'll banish one of you and then we'll probably banish the other one. So unfortunately, I don't think the twins will get particularly far whether as a faithful or as a traitor, because they'll probably get banished one after the other. And for that reason, because the traitors know that, they may also get murdered quite early as well, because there'd be no point keeping them around. But also maybe there would be point keeping them around because it'd be another waste of a round table. Send away a faithful. The trick would be if they were traitors. One or both of them were traitors. Because then they'd have another traitor or two or three, depending on how many there were, in their corner. And if they could deflect and distract enough, they might just be able to sneak under the radar. And so possibly could get a little bit further, but I don't think they could win because being a pair, unfortunately, does mean you're probably going to get voted out at some point. So I think they'd last longer if one or both of them were traitors, but I don't think they make it to the end. And as faithfuls, they are definitely getting banished, unfortunately. All right, that wraps up all of the lost boys. So let's move over then to Tiger Lily. I think she would really enjoy this game, and I think she would flourish. I think that she could do quite well as a traitor, but I think she would love being a faithful. I think she would love feeling like she's one of the good guys and she's hunting down the bad guys. I think that, yeah, she could get quite far as a faithful. The traitors would know she was powerful, though, and so they would probably have to kill her off before she got to the final, because if she made it to the final, oh, that could be a problem. So I think as a faithful, she has a very good chance of getting all the way to the end. As a traitor, I think she'd still enjoy it. I think it'd be a fun game. Again, depending on who her fellow traitors were. So I'm going to say Tiger Lily has the best chance of winning as a faithful, but depending on who the other traitors were, she could have a good chance of winning. If it was Tiger Lily, Tinkerbell, and Wendy, or Tiger Lily, Tinkerbell, and another, I think she would get thrown under the bus by Tinkerbell. I think that Tinkerbell would do that. Welcome then to the third and final part of this video, the Neverland meets the Traitors. So for this part of the video, we are going to be using this this cup of skull, and in it I have written down the names of all of the characters that I'm going to be including in this, and I'm going to pull out 3 of them, and they're going to be the traitors, which means everyone else is a faithful, and I'll do a little discussion about how well I think they'd work as a team, and then I'll put the names back in, shuffle them around again, pick out 3 more. I'll probably do this 3 times, so we'll have 3 different combinations, and I will decide out of those 3 who I think has the best chance of winning as a team of traitors and what it might happen, and who has the worst chance of succeeding. Alright, let's do this. Okay, so, name 1. Name 2, and name 3. Okay, hold those. Hold them for me. Hold them for me. Hold them for me. Alright, so, name number 1 is Curly. Ooh, poor Curly. Alright, Curly is a traitor. Alright, and Slightly. Is it going to be an all lost boys? Nibs! Oh my goodness me. Okay, so Nibs, Curly, and Slightly as the 3 traitors. Oh, that's an interesting game. So Slightly would probably try and take charge immediately. The other 2 would be used to this, but it might put their backs up just a little bit. Okay, Curly, bless his heart, would probably get voted out quite early, but he does have 2 lost boys voting with him now, so that's 3 of them quite strongly. And there's 6 lost boys in total, so it's 3 against the other 3 if they all turned on Curly, and they would have to convince the rest of the table to vote for Curly as well. So, in this circumstance, who have we got left at the table who is not a traitor? We've got John Darling. A lot of people might vote for him because he might seem dodgy. We have got Peter. People might vote for him because, again, much like Captain Hook, people might vote for them to get them out just because this is the one circumstance where you can do that and you're not going to get killed for it. So those are the 3 I think might go first. But ultimately, I do think Curly would start to sweat and be accused of it, particularly by the other lost boys. Wendy, I think, would probably start to see through him, and eventually when she knew she could get the numbers, I think she would probably vote him out. So Curly, unfortunately, I don't think is going to make it through to the end. Slightly and Nibs. Nibs, I think, almost could be a little bit of a dark horse. He could make it through to the end as a traitor. I think Slightly might get a little bit too cocky with it. He might start behaving a bit like Peter. He might start, getting this arrogance to him, which would, infuriate people. And eventually, I think they might start to cotton on to the fact that, hang on a minute, I reckon it's Slightly. And then I don't know if he'd do a very good job of defending himself, because he tends to get quite not insulted, that's the wrong word. He gets a little bit like blustery, like when his reaction to all the Lost Boys talking about their mothers and how much they love them. He says, well, my mother loved me more than any of you because she gave me a name. She wrote it in the clothes I was lost in, and it says slightly soiled. It's very fun. Ultimately, I think slightly would be his own downfall, and I think the most likely traitor to win would be Nibs. Group number 2, and we're going to give it a good mix around, trying not to let them all fall out. It's like the lottery, this, isn't it? Alright, so, our second group of traitors. Traitor number... I'm going to go to the bottom this time. Alright, traitor number 1. Traitor number 2. I'm trying not to... Okay. Okay. And traitor number... 3. I picked up like 5. Okay, here we go. Hold that. Hold that. Hold that. I'm trying not to cut the camera. Alright, this one started to disintegrate in my hand. So here the... Wendy. Wendy is a traitor. Okay. Okay. Alright. And we've got Twin 2. Okay. And we've got Tootles. Oh, this is interesting. Well, I think ultimately I stand by what I said about the twins. People will clutch at anything to vote people off early. And yes, there's Wendy and Tootles. And while Wendy, yes, people might listen to, which might buy the twins some more round tables, I just ultimately think that they are going to get voted off. 1 or 2 first, and then the other one. So, yeah, I'm sorry. Twin number 2, I just don't think that they could win as a traitor. I'm really sorry. I think they're going to probably be the first traitor found out. Or Tootles. That's something that could also happen. So Tootles and Wendy could defend Twin 2. Tootles will probably look quite suspicious doing this and may well give the game away. Wendy would not look suspicious for defending Tootles though, or for defending Twin 2. So Wendy would probably be the winner here as the traitor. I absolutely think she could win it. I think she would feel quite bad about stealing from everyone else, but I think she could absolutely win it. She would really want to take the other 2 with her and she would try to help them out. And actually, I take it back, I think that between the 3 traitors, they may be able to buy the twins some more rounds and keep both of them in, ultimately knowing that unfortunately they're probably going to have to throw Twin 1 under the bus as a sacrifice, or take Twin 1 all the way to the end and then let the twin down by being like, LOL, traitors, sorry. So that might happen. Tootles, however, may give himself away. The other Lost Boys, particularly slightly, I think would want to vote for Tootles, and they would just suspect him at once because he would just seem so nervous about it. And Wendy could probably try and be really nice and say, oh, no, he's nervous, because we're playing the game. He's just nervous about the game. But ultimately, I think Tootles would probably get banished first. Revealed as a traitor, that would not put heat on Wendy, though I still think she'd be very trustworthy because she's just a very trusting person. People would see that of her, but I think attention would eventually turn back onto the twins. And so ultimately in this scenario, I think Wendy has a good chance of winning, and while she would try to take the others with her, I just think they would get banished. So far team number 2 has the best chance of winning, and it probably would just be Wendy. Alright, let's do combination number 3. We're going to shake, rattle and roll, shake, rattle and roll. Haven't had any pirates yet. There are only 2 pirates in this though. I didn't put all of them in. Did I put Starkey in? Can't remember. Alright, let's do it. The final lot of traitors. Traitor number 1. Traitor number 2. Oh, you immediately came to my hand. So we're going to go with, well, we'll go both of you. Why not? These both came into my hand. Okay, so hold these. Alright then, let's do it. The first one I picked up was this one, which is now slightly soggy. This is Curly again. Curly really wants to be a traitor. Well, I did say that was his best chance of winning, so I think I did anyway. Alright. And this one is Tinkerbell. Oh, Tinkerbell. And we know that she can manipulate the Lost Boys. And Captain Hook. Okay, so we've got Captain Hook, Tinkerbell, and Curly. Wow. Okay, immediately, I don't think Captain Hook is winning this. I think Tinkerbell would turn on him so fast. I think that all the Lost Boys would want to vote for him. I think Peter would want to vote for him. I think that within a few rounds, he would get himself banished. He would probably be able to be very eloquent, and depending on how many pirates were still in the game, they would probably keep saying no, 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 and refuse to vote for him. But then the others would realise all we need to do is keep voting out the pirates. And while Captain Hook had tried to convince the fellow traitors to, you know, murder Lost Boys, he is going up against Tinkerbell and Curly, so he will get outvoted every single time. And so ultimately, Captain Hook is probably going to be the first traitor to get caught, unfortunately, which means that we are left with Tinkerbell and Curly, who could be the unlikely duo to go to win the whole thing. I think Tinkerbell could probably be the mastermind of deciding what they're going to do next, and she would strategically vote people out. She might keep Peter in, butter him up a little bit, and keep him on side right till the very end, and almost forget that Curly's there. Him being such a pickle, he could get carried through and just be really confused, but ultimately I do think because it's Curly, people will then vote for him. They will vote out Captain Hook first. I just think that's what they will go for, but Curly ultimately, unfortunately, he could ride on Tink's coattails. He really could. If they deflect enough, he could. But unfortunately, everyone is so used to it being his fault that I think ultimately a lot of the evidence could accidentally point towards him. And so he is probably going to go. And so Tinkerbell is probably going to take the pot and win. She will probably not recruit. And if anything, she'd recruit Peter. In fact, that's how I think this game is going to go. Tinkerbell is going to let the other two traitors get out. She will help everyone vote for Captain Hook. She would turn on Curly when she saw the tide was turning that way. No problems at all. She would not recruit that first time. She would murder Wendy immediately, although that might give her away as Wendy got murdered. It may well give her away. So what she might be best to do is to convince Curly to murder Wendy and then get Curly banished so everyone's distracted by Curly murdering Wendy so she can fly under the radar, then recruit Peter, who she would split with, and then just kill and banish everyone else until it was just them left at the end. I do, however, think that if she does murder Wendy, she would be in a little bit of hot water. So weirdly then, the combination probably most likely to win as traitors, as the original traitors, is combination 2, which is Wendy, Twin 2 and Tootles. It is probably only Wendy who will win it, but still nonetheless, it is Wendy who will win. Whereas in scenario number 3, which was Tinkerbell, Captain Hook, and Curly, Tinkerbell would probably go the furthest, ultimately get herself banished, but probably recruit Peter, and so then Peter would win it all. So sadly, that means that combination number 1, the all Lost Boys, Slightly, Curly, and Nibs, are probably the least likely to take the pot. But they would still have a really good fun time doing it. What do you guys reckon to my predictions of the Traitors? Have you enjoyed it so far? Have you been watching it? What do you reckon would happen if they played the Traitors on the Neverland? Who do you think has the best chance of winning? And would they be a faithful or a traitor? Let me know in the comments down below. As always, any other thoughts or theories or questions, pop them in the comments. Head on over to the Peter Pan Lore TikTok page where I do more short form content so you can ask and I'll give you a slightly quicker answer over there as well. And I will see you probably in about a month or so when we'll do another video on the Peter Pan Lore YouTube. Alright, goodbye for now, goodbye from me, goodbye from Sergey, don't forget to hydrate, stay magical, goodbye. I'm not an Apple user, I'm sorry, I'm not sorry. I refuse, I will never. I am Android forever and ever. Do, 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 do.